Hello, this is going to be a tutorial on how to submit a rent relief application through the Gov2Go portal as a tenant. Please note that all new applications must be submitted by May 15th, 2022. First, we're going to go over what will help you be successful in submitting a tenant rent relief application. There is a website that you can go to for other instructions and helpful information, including frequently asked questions. It's a website for the Department of Housing and Community Development and can be found at dhcd.virginia.gov/RRP. You can also contact the Gov2Go Support Center to ask questions, and they can be reached at 1-833-736-8735. You can also reach the Gov2Go email at rrpsupport@egov.com. And then you can also email the Department of Housing Community Development directly at rrp@dhcd.virginia.gov. And so the next thing you're going to need to be successful is an open line of communication with your landlord. You're going to want them to be willing to send over existing documents, sign and send any new documents that you might need, and you need the landlord to create a Gov2Go account and submit a landlord application, and for them to be willing to actively monitor that application and account to give you updates to ensure the application can be reviewed properly. Please note that the tenant must submit a Virginia rent relief application on Gov2Go, and the landlord must also submit a separate landlord rent relief application on Gov2Go. So 2 online applications will need to be submitted in order for the applications to be fully reviewed to get the tenant rent relief. Something else you'll need is reliable access to technology, which can include a smartphone, tablet, or a computer with internet access. The Gov2Go platform, which is where you're going to be submitting the rent relief application, is accessible online or through the phone app. You're also going to need continued access to an email address both to submit the application and to keep up to date with updates or requests that the rent relief program may ask of you after you submit the application. Some other stuff you're going to need in terms of documents is going to be a digital copy of the lease, or if you only have a paper copy, you can take pictures of it and turn it into a digital copy, which we'll cover later on in this video. You may need proof of income, public benefits such as SNAP, and we're also going to cover more into depth what income information might be needed later on. And then you will also need a ledger from your landlord, which will show exactly how much you might owe for each month you might be behind. And so now we're going to begin the part of the video going through step by step of how you can submit your tenant application on the Gov2Go website. So with me, you can navigate to the Gov2Go website, which is here at web.get.gov.com. And alternatively, if you already have the Gov2Go phone app, if you happen to have used it to file for unemployment or otherwise, you can use the phone app as well as the website. So first you're going to make an account. If you already have an account, you can enter in your email here and hit continue and then fill in your password and hit sign in. If you don't already have an account, we are going to show you how to create an account right here. So you're going to click on the Create Account tab and you're going to enter in the email that you want to register with. And again, this email is going to be one that you will have access to right now and in the future. You can enter it in again to confirm it. And then for the password, it must have 1 uppercase character, 1 number, and 1 special character. And it must be at least 8 characters long. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for mine. Do not use this for yours. This is just for example. And then we are going to hit the Create Account button. And before you do this, just make sure that you know that your landlord cannot have the same account as you. You both need separate accounts with separate email addresses. And up here, this might show up for you if you're using a browser to a website to save your password. I'm going to hit save because I don't want to forget my password. But I would also recommend that you write down the username and password that you used for Gov2Go. And now we're going to set the primary location as Virginia. And please note, you cannot file for the rent relief program if your primary location is not in Virginia, because this is a Virginia rent relief program. I'm going to click update. And this button is going to take you through a tutorial of how to view the Gov2Go website and how to navigate it. So here it's going to show you new messages. Here it's going to show you my events, which is how you're going to be navigating to the rent relief program often. We're going to hit next. And then done. And the second step is to enroll in rent relief. So what we did just now was making a Gov2Go account, and now we need to enroll in rent relief specifically. So we're going to do that by, we're on our dashboard page right now, and then we're going to navigate to Discovery over here on the menu page to the left. I'm going to click on Discovery, and then I'm going to click on Virginia Rent Relief Program. And I'm going to hit subscribe. And you can take a look at this, read this over, hit next. And then I'm going to click that I am a tenant, because this video is a tutorial for tenants on how to submit an application. Okay, and then step 3 is setting up your Gov2Go profile, which is this. So if you are assisting another person with this application, only enter in the information of the primary tenant. If you are the tenant and you're the primary tenant, you can enter in your information here. And so we're saying that my address is 123 Main Street, Apartment A, Norfolk, Virginia, 23510. For address line 2, in order to indicate that it's Apartment A, I'm just going to put the letter A and not apartment, just the letter A. And then for city, I'm going to put Norfolk. Zip code 23510. Don't put any dashes or periods or spaces when you're doing your phone number. Just go ahead and hit next. And then we're going to start a new tenant application because we have not applied yet. So we're going to hit start new tenant application to fully start the Virginia Rent Relief Program application process. Hit next. And then we're going to answer the questions relating to the primary tenant, which is myself. So I'm going to say that no, I'm not completing this for someone else because I'm completing it for myself. And then, has COVID-19 made it more difficult for me to pay rent or other bills? For these questions, for this question and the question down here, which of these have you experienced? If you have experienced any of these things in the list at any point since April 2020, then you can hit yes. So I have experienced difficult for me to pay rent or other bills during COVID-19, so I'm going to click yes. And for which of these have experienced, have me or anyone else in my household experienced any of these since April 2020? I'm going to go through these questions. I'm going to select the ones that do apply. And so for instance, I did have an increase in food costs because prices of food went up. And so I'm going to, if any of these also apply to you, check all of them that apply. If you do have an unlawful detainer or eviction notice, so if you've gotten paperwork telling you to go to court at a certain date and time, that's your unlawful detainer notice. Or if you have an eviction notice saying that the sheriff is coming in the next few days, go ahead and click yes, you have received an unlawful detainer or eviction notice. And then hit next. And so I'm just going to verify that all the information that I entered in before is still accurate. All of this looks right to me, so I'm going to hit next. I'm going to enter in that I do not live in a county because I live in Norfolk. Okay, and then I'm going to enter in how much do I pay for rent each month. Please note that if your rent went up recently, you're just going to put your most current rent amount. So even if it changed recently, just put the amount that you pay right now. In order to qualify for the Virginia Rent Relief Program, your rent cannot exceed a certain amount depending on where you live and how many bedrooms you have. So if you go through this part and you hit next and it says that there's an error, it may be because you are charged too much in rent. If that's the case, please reference the written comprehensive user guide for more information about fair market rent. Otherwise, just keep on filling out this form. How many bedrooms do I have? I have 2 bedrooms. So that's going to ask how many people live with you. For instance, in my household, there are 2 people. So it's me and someone else that I live with. So I'm going to put that 1 person lives with me because I am not counted in this number. If you were to live alone, you would put 0 people live with you. And if you had 3 children living with you, you would put 3 because you're not included in this number. So for me, I live with myself and 1 other person, so I'm going to put 1 person lives with me. And I'm going to hit next. Okay, and then you're just going to answer these questions, these yes or no questions. I am currently employed. I do earn less than $59,851 per year. And so note that if you hit no to this question, it will not let you proceed because whatever this number is for the amount of people in your household is the eligibility limit for the rent relief program based on income. So if your household makes over a certain amount of money, you will not be able to proceed in the application. So if you hit no on this and you hit next and it says there's an error and you can't proceed, that's probably why. And you may want to call the Gov2Go phone number that we referenced before to figure out if there's anything that you can do about that. So, but for me, I do earn less than $59,000 per year. And so for the next question, do you earn less than $37,401 per year? You don't have to say yes to this in order to proceed. This is just for reporting purposes. So if you say yes or no, you should still be able to proceed with the application on this second income question. For me, we're going to say that I do earn less than $37,000 per year. And then if you receive any of these benefits, go ahead and click them. And if you don't, that's no problem. Just hit I do not receive benefits from any of the above. And we're going to hit next. And then we're going to hit yes, go to next step, because I do have a copy of my lease on me. And if not, you can hit no, save my application, and it will save all the information that you previously entered. And you'll be able to go back and edit it. So I'm going to hit yes, go to next step. I'm going to hit next. Have I submitted an application for rental assistance with another agency? No, I have not. Has anyone I live with received rental assistance? I'm going to hit no. So this question is asking specifically about the amount of time and the amount of rent that I'm asking for on this specific application. So if I'm applying for rent relief for April 2022 to July 2022, and I have not received any other rental assistance from April 2022 to July 2022, I'm going to hit no, I have not submitted an application for rental assistance with another agency. And then I'm going to hit next. Okay, and then I'm going to enter in the demographic questions relating to myself. And then how much does this individual earn per year? It's asking you to include any Social Security, disability, pensions, alimony, child support, or unemployment insurance. It's also going to want you to include any employment that you get. So in order to calculate yearly income, you're going to multiply your past 30 days of income by 12. So for example, if I received $600 from employment and $200 in child support in the past 30 days, I'm going to add 600 plus 200 to give me 800 in the past 30 days. And then I'm going to multiply 800 by 12 to get me the yearly income of $9,600 per year. And then, am I self-employed? No, I am not self-employed. Do I get paid in cash only? I do not. I'm going to hit next. And just look over this information, make sure you didn't make any mistakes. If it looks good, hit yes, go to next step. If you need to update something, hit no, hit next. It'll let you change it over here. And hit next again. It looks right to me, so I'm going to hit yes. I'm going to hit next. This is asking about the other person that lives with me. So because there's only one person that lives with me, it's only asking me about one other person. Okay, and so I'm going to enter in the household information for the other person in my household. Same thing. With the income, we're going to multiply it past 30 days of income times 12 to get the yearly income for this individual. Also, if the second person who's in your household or anybody else who's in your household happens to be a child, meaning they are under 18 years old, you can put 0 for the annual income here, and you're going to put no for the rest of the income information. Otherwise, just answer it truthfully if they are an adult. So we're going to say that the other person in my household does not make any income at the moment. So in the past 30 days, he has not made any income. So we're going to put 0. He's not self-employed, and he does not get cash only. We're going to hit next. And then that information looks good to me, so I'm going to hit I am done with household members. I'm going to hit next. Okay, and then for the landlord information, enter in your landlord's name exactly how it appears on the lease. So landlord LLC is an example. It's not a real landlord. This is how we're going to say it appears on my lease. For the landlord's phone number, I'm going to put what phone number I have for them. Again, this is not a real phone number, but whatever your landlord's phone number is, put it here. If you only have the property manager's phone number, put it here. If you don't have the phone number, make sure you try to figure that out before you submit the application, because it's not going to let you proceed without entering in a phone number. For the landlord email address, if you don't know their email address, try your very best to get it before you submit this application so that they can get notified that you submitted it. They will need an email address in order to apply. So you technically can proceed with this application without entering in a landlord email address, but if you can, try to enter it here. At the bottom of this page, you will have to put in your lease start and end dates, which you can find on your lease under the lease term section, or you can confirm that with your landlord. So just keep in mind that the dates you put here will control which months you can request rent relief for. So if your lease expired since the end date on your lease, or you know that you're month to month, you should put the lease end date as the last day of the next month. So for example, we're in the month of May, so the last day of next month would be June 30th, that I would put as the lease end date here if I was month to month. And then you would enter in whatever start date is on your lease. If you were month to month, you would also select the yes is your lease month to month option. If you recently renewed your lease and you owe rent from the previous lease that you signed, make sure that you put the start date of that first lease that you're requesting rent relief for. After you enter in all this information, hit next. So for these next few pages, we're going to tell the rent relief program if you owe anything for this specific month. If you don't owe anything for any one month, you can select no on this question. So for my application, we're going to say that I began owing rent in October of 2021. So for the question asking me, do I need assistance in May 2021? No, I don't, because I paid fully for May 2021. I don't need it for June 2021. I don't need it for July 2021 or August. So in October, I'm going to hit yes that I do owe rent. So in this section, you're going to enter in any rent, utility, or other fees that you actually owe. So if I made a partial payment in October, say I made a partial payment of $300, I would only owe my landlord $600 of my $900 rent. So I would only request the rent relief program help me with $600 of that. And then let's say that I owe, for utilities, enter the dollar amount that you owe in utilities/home energy section. If you don't owe your landlord any utilities, put in 0. And when they're referring to utilities, they're referring to water, gas, electric, stuff like that that you pay directly to your landlord, not to the utility company. So if you pay Dominion directly for your electric, you cannot ask the rent relief program to pay for it because it's not paid to your landlord specifically. And then for other fees, you can enter in stuff like late fees, trash fees, pet/services fees, washer dryer fees, whatever you may be charged. But all of these dollar amounts must match up again with the ledger that your landlord provided. So if your landlord does not say that you owe a trash fee for October, if you request it, the rent relief program is going to ask you to not request it. So just make sure that it matches up exactly what the landlord is saying that you owe. In my case, we're going to say that the landlord is charging me 10% of what I owed in rent for a late fee. I'm going to hit next. And then for November, I owe all of November from this point on, haven't made a payment since October. So I'm going to put that I owe full $900 in rent, $0 in utilities, and then again, 10% of rent I am being charged in a late fee. Please note that the rent relief program will not approve an application if you're requesting more than 10% of rent per month in a late fee, because the state of Virginia does not allow landlords to charge more than 10% of rent as a late fee. If your landlord does do that, please communicate with them that they need to lower their late fee so that you can get this application approved. Hit next. And you're just going to go through this process with all of the amounts that you owe. And then for the month of June, because it's a future month, you can't request a late fee because the rent is not yet late. So you're just going to put whatever rent amount you owe, 0, and then 0 for other fees if you're only doing a late fee. If you're doing other stuff like pet services fees that you're charged every single month, washer dryer fees you're charged every single month, feel free to include it here for future months as well. But for any future month, you cannot request a late fee. Okay, and then this is an overview of what we requested. What you're going to want to do is take a screenshot or a picture of this page so that you know what you requested on the application, because you're not going to be able to see this information again unless your application gets returned to you by the rent relief program. Make sure everything's right. If it's not right, hit back, and you're going to have to hit back again until you need to fix the error that you might have made. And then hit next again after you fix the error. At this point in the application, it's going to ask you to upload any documents that the rent relief program might require. For you, it might be income. It might not ask you for income. It will ask you for a lease. If it does ask you for income, you may be asked to provide a income proof of public benefits like SNAP, Social Security disability, or it may ask you to upload proof of income, as in pay stubs, child support statements, or self-employment information. If it does, just follow the information on the screen and keep hitting next. If you indicated making income in cash only, a cash income attestation form will show up, and then you can check the boxes to say that you agree that you do receive X amount of money in cash per month. However, there might be a glitch where even though you already electronically signed something saying that you only make cash income, it may ask you to upload a cash income form for proof of income. And what you can do to find that is go to tinyurl.com/RRP cash income. And the form will look just like this. And you can upload this document in this file. Similar to the cash income attestation, if you indicate that you have 0 income, you may also have to attest to the fact that you have 0 income. So you can take a look at this certification that you're agreeing to, agree that whatever member of the household that you indicated has 0 income does in fact have 0 income. Hit next. And it may, again, ask you for proof of income, even though you literally just said that you don't have any. So if that does happen, you can go to a different link, which is tinyurl.com/RRP no income, which will give you the 0 income attestation form that you can physically sign and upload the same way that you uploaded the cash income attestation if that was needed. And if none of those options work for you and you can't download those forms for whatever reason, you can't sign them, then you can try to write a letter explaining that you have no income or that you have cash income, sign it, date it, take a picture of it, and upload it to the application where it asks you for proof of income. If you need any further information or have any further questions about what might suffice as proof of income or proof of public benefits, please reference the written Gov2Go comprehensive guide that we are providing. In the case that you do not have to provide income and they just ask you for a lease, it's going to bring you to this page, lease, document upload. Make sure that when you upload this document, that you upload all leases and lease extensions that you might have. If your lease is more than 1 page, you must combine all pages into one PDF document. And you can do this by using apps like iPhone Notes app, Adobe Scan app. You can use Preview if you have a Mac computer, or Cam Scanner, or Adobe Acrobat. So along with your lease all being combined into one PDF document, make sure that your lease has the names of the landlord and all tenants over the age of 18. Make sure the lease has dated signatures with the landlord and the tenant. Make sure the lease has beginning and end dates, or a start date with a section explaining that the lease auto renews or continues as month to month. Make sure the lease has a full address with the zip code, and make sure the lease identifies the rental amount and any fees you are charged, like a late fee or utilities or pet rent, for instance. So right now I'm going to hit browse. I'm going to upload my lease, which is already in one PDF document. It's already in one PDF, all 11 pages. I'm going to hit next. This is the Virginia Landlord-Tenant Household Agreement for the rent relief program. This page explains your rights and responsibilities when applying for rent relief. When you select yes to the landlord-tenant agreement, it submits your application. You won't be able to edit it unless the rent relief program sends the application back if there is an issue. If there is no issue, you will not be prompted to edit the application. So you do have to select yes in order to submit your application. If you hit no, it will bring you back to the home page without submitting your application, and you'll have to select work on in-progress application to resume your application. So make sure that if all the information that you entered in is correct, you hit yes in order to submit your application. And if you're ready right now, if you think you might need to edit something, you can always hit back and do so. So say that I accidentally entered in the wrong PDF for the lease. I'm going to say, yes, I do want to re-upload my document, and then I'm going to re-upload it. So I'm going to hit yes and next to submit it. And this page right here gives me my confirmation number for my tenant rent relief program application. Take a screenshot of this, write down the number, take a picture of this page. This is an important number for you to have. You and your landlord will have different confirmation numbers, but this one is going to be yours for the tenant application. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. And I'm going to hit next. And so once you submit your application, the rent relief application reviewers will look through it to verify if all information submitted meets the requirements for the rent relief program. It's important that you have access to your email to monitor if Gov2Go sends you notifications of any status changes, especially if they return the application to you asking you to make edits. The emails will have a subject line saying RRP application has status change, but they will not always tell you the new status. You'll need to log into your Gov2Go account to check the status. So to do so, you're going to go to your rent relief program main menu, which is right here. It already brought me to it, but say that I'm just logging in to the rent relief to Gov2Go again. I'm just going to sign out so we can show you what that looks like. I already made an account, so I don't need to create a new one. I'm just going to log into my existing one. And it remembered my password. If not, you can just enter it in again. I'm going to hit sign in. This is going to bring you to the home page of Gov2Go, and you're going to want to navigate to the Virginia Rent Relief Program option. So you're going to click on the words My Events up here, and you're going to click on Virginia Rent Relief Program, and then over here, click here to access rent relief on the right. At the bottom of the main menu options, select Check Tenant Application Status, and then a drop-down is going to appear, and you're going to select the submitted application. It's going to read confirmation number. This is going to be your confirmation number, and this is going to be your address. Click on it, and then hit next. And it does show you the date and time and the last status of whatever had happened on the application. So the last thing that we did on this application was submit it. The rent relief program has not had a chance to review it yet, and so the last status update is that I submitted it just a few minutes ago. And so I'm just going to show you the options of what the status update might be. If it's not just submitted, we're just going to go through that to show you what you might see on here. Please just note that the most recent activity will be on the bottom of the activity log, but it's also important to pay attention to all activity. So down here, if anything else had happened, it would say, it would appear under application submitted with the new date and time of the new application. So first off, application submitted means your application has most likely not been reviewed yet. Check back twice a week to see if you receive any other updates. You can check in more frequently if you prefer. One application status that might show up is application return for end user editing. This will show up if the Rent Relief Program needs you to make any edits. The edits they ask you to make will show up as the last status update. So here as an example, the last status update here highlighted in yellow is the comment telling me why they returned it to me and what they need me to change. This is an example. It can appear to look differently or it can have a different comment if depending on what might be wrong with your application or what might they ask you to fix with your application. If you have the information or documents needed to make those changes, follow these next steps to actually fix the application. So you're going to want to be on the main menu button. If this ever pops up that you need more time, make sure that you hit continue working so it doesn't sign you out. If it does sign you out, that's fine. You can just log back in. Right now, I'm still working on it, so I'm going to hit continue working. So we're going to say, I got an email telling me that there's a status change on my application. So to see what it was, I'm going to check tenant application status again. Here it says it was returned to me at 2 p.m. today, asking me to fix something on the application. So what I'm going to want to do is hit next. What you're going to want to do is hit work on returned application with a confirmation number that you previously submitted. Do not hit start new tenant application if your application was returned to you. You don't need to start over. You just need to work on the application that you already submitted. In order to do that, hit work on returned application, then hit next. And if they did not ask me to edit any of this information, if they didn't ask you to edit any given information, you can just keep hitting next until you get to a part where it did ask you to change something. So for instance, say that they told me that I accidentally entered in the wrong unit number in address 2. It would say that it was supposed to be B on my lease. I would just change it to B and I would hit next. In this case, A is correct, so I'm going to fix that. Hit next. This is going to autofill all of the information that you already typed in. Again, if nothing is wrong with certain parts of the application, just keep hitting next until you get to the part that it asks you to fix. So say that in the return message, it said that I entered in the wrong lease start date and it actually began a year before this. I would just change the lease start date to May 1st, 2020. Hit next, and it may ask you to change the request amount or clarify what you owe again. Just fill in the information that is correct for your circumstance. Then keep hitting next. And again, this just brought me to the place where I actually did request assistance. All of this is still correct for me, so I'm going to keep hitting next. If it's incorrect for you and the Rent Relief Program asks you to fix it, say that you put in a wrong late fee, you can just go ahead and fix it and hit next. However, sometimes when you submit an application and it's returned to you, the return message might not make any sense and it might not be something that you can actually fix. If you're ever confused about the return message that you get, call the Rent Relief Program at 1-833-736-8735 for more information. And I'm going to hit resubmit again because I know that all the information that I just put in is correct now. So I'm going to hit yes, I agree. And it has been submitted again. And so now when I go, now work on return status button disappears because no application has been returned to me because I resubmitted it to the program. If I want to check back in on it again, I can hit check tenant application status, hit next, and then you'll see the last status update was that I submitted it. If your application says application accepted, It's been determined by the rent relief program that the information and documents submitted are satisfactory for the application. At this point, the rent relief program is most likely waiting for your landlord to submit the application, or is in the process of linking your landlord's application to yours. Another status update that you could see is case created. This means your application and your landlord's application have been linked to make a case and are undergoing final review. This step cannot happen until your tenant application and your landlord's application have both been accepted. It is possible that the rent relief program will find discrepancies or changes needed at this stage of the application process. It's possible that either your application or the landlord's application or both may be returned for final edits. If the rent relief program requests no final edits, your application will be approved or denied at this stage. Another status update that you could see could be case approved. This means that the rent relief program application has been approved. To know how much you were approved for, call the Gov2Go Support Center at 1-833-736-8735, or wait for payment confirmation email, or wait for payment to be sent to your landlord. Please note that they may not approve the application for the exact dollar amount that you requested on your application. You're going to want to call to make sure that you know what amount you are being approved for. Another application status that could show up is case denied. If it says that, that means the rent relief program has determined your application is not eligible for assistance. If you believe this was incorrectly determined, contact the Department of Housing and Community Development at rrp@dhcd.virginia.gov. When checking the application status, there will always be a next step listed. If the next step looks like the one below, please note this does not necessarily mean that your tenant application or landlord's application was not submitted to Gov2Go. And the next step I'm referring to says, we are waiting for your landlord to complete their application before we can establish a case for you. Please check back within this service regularly for status updates. It's possible that the landlord has not submitted one yet, but it's also possible the landlord has submitted one, but your tenant application and their landlord application have not yet been linked by the system. If this is what's happening, it may take the rent relief program a few weeks to link both of your applications to create a case. If it's taking too long, you should call or email the Gov2Go Support Center to request tenant and landlord applications be linked. It'll help if you have both confirmation numbers to tell the support center. You should be communicating with your landlord to make sure they have submitted their application, and you should both check frequently to see if Gov2Go returned the applications to make any edits so that you can fix them. If you have any questions about your rent relief application at any point during the process, you can reach out to the following numbers and emails that we covered before: the Gov2Go Support Center at 1-833-736-8735, the Gov2Go Support Center email at rrpsupport@egov.com, or the Department of Housing and Community Development at rrp@dhcd.virginia.gov. Again, please note the deadline to submit new applications is May 15th, 2022.